And welcome back to Janky AF and Year of the Aerostar, episode number 127. Well, we're back in our sort of home confines here. Happy to be back. It's been a wild ride lately, but I want to sort of catch a momentum and catch a roll here on Year of the Aerostar. And you know, I hopped on the local classifieds here, and boy, there's just a treasure trove of good Aerostars out there, as there always is. And I think that's sort of a thing. People say you never really see these vehicles around anymore, and that may be true given, you know, just how many vehicles are out there. But if you, it doesn't take long to find one if you're out there looking for one, and we certainly are all the time here on JKF. So I'll try to do as many of these as I can. Hopefully we catch a little run, catch a little momentum, and give you some of that sweet Aerostar action that hopefully you've been craving as much as I have. So without further ado, here we have a 1997 Ford Aerostar Cargo, listed for $1,750 in Washington, Pennsylvania. Now, Washington, Pennsylvania is certainly not as far from me as Washington State. However, it is still quite far. It's in the sort of Pittsburgh area, and that is sort of on the, you know, southwestern end of Pennsylvania. I am, of course, somewhere in the friendly rolling hills of upstate New York. And so I already mapped this one out because, of course, as you can see, it is a lovely Aerostar. And this one it's not that far away, but it's far enough that it makes it just a little bit harder to get to in the fantasy version of my mind, where I buy every single Aerostar that I see. But this one, I have to say, I am quite smitten with. This just, for me, checks every single box of an Aerostar that I would want. It's a low bar with me because I want every single Aerostar, but we'll get into it, and you'll see, I think, just why, for me, this is such a strikingly special Aerostar. So, about this vehicle: driven 91,587 miles, under 100,000 miles. Automatic transmission, exterior color white, interior color is gray. The fuel type is gasoline. It's had more than 3 owners. The vehicle is paid off, and it does have a clean title. It also says under there, this vehicle has no significant damage or problems. Always nice to hear. Okay, seller's description. Used to be a mail van, and I could have told you that even just by looking at it, but this is confirmation. Still runs good. We used it for tool van, but have since upgraded to a larger van. Would be great for a small cleaning of painting business. The great typo. I always say, you know, this is a documentation of Ford Aerostars, but it's also a critique or a celebration, as it were, of the language used in classified listings. And this is a great, it's a typo, I'm assuming, but it's also a great case of syntactical ambiguity, because now it should probably say would be great for a small painting business, for a small cleaning or painting business. However, because the preposition of is in there instead of or, it reads would be great for a small cleaning of painting business. Now, every time anybody sees me out in the wild in my painting rags, they just can't help themselves but uttering the tried and true phrase, "Did you get any on the house?" Second in line, you know, not quite as frequent, but definitely a safe second place, though maybe a distant second place, is, "Let me guess, you're a painter." Which is just so, you know, people can't help themselves, and it never bothers me. You know, I should probably at this point have come up with better, you know, responses to those questions, like, did you get any out of the house? But oftentimes I'm just so dumbfounded by the regularity and, you know, commitment to cliche that the general public has when seeing someone wearing painting clothes. But this is funny because, and I say that because a small cleaning of painting business. Now it's not cleaning of paint business. I don't know how you would clean paint exactly unless it was wet paint and you're trying to clean it up like you spilled it, which I'm certainly familiar with. However, this would be great for a small cleaning of painting business. Now, it's like, it makes sense linguistically, but it's hard to describe exactly what it describes, if that makes any sense. Cleaning of painting. It's like, I guess as you're painting, someone is going along and cleaning it. So anyways, I thought that was funny because it does sort of, even though it's a typo, linguistically it still sort of makes sense, and it has that sort of ambiguity of what exactly they mean. But I just love when you can put a typo in there and yet it still somehow makes sense in a totally different context that you weren't expecting and certainly not familiar with. So I just thought that was funny. I have a small painting business. I don't have a cleaning of painting business, but I do have a small painting business. And so this vehicle would be perfect for me, or great for me. But maybe I'm wish casting here and saying perfect for me, but it would be great for me. I would love to have this beautiful, beautiful Aerostar. And of course, as we get into the photos, you'll notice one striking thing that jumps out at me probably faster than anything else is this little badge down here. This is, of course, the electronic four-wheel drive badge, which means this is an all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive Aerostar. So ding, 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 that's a box right there. You can also see clearly that it is an extended Aerostar, as we see in this picture, and I'm jumping around a little bit out of order here. So an extended all-wheel drive Aerostar is like the next Aerostar that I want. I think that's the next one I get, barring any, miraculous like dirt cheap thing or something that falls in my lap, or it's hard to pass up another manual transmission Aerostar. I do specifically want a manual transmission Aerostar with the second gen or facelifted interior, because I would like to experience what that van drives like in a manual, as opposed to my 86, which is like sort of the first year of the Aerostar, and it's all original. Everything's slightly different than it is on the later ones. So that's right up there. But boy, and I've always wanted, I've always had this fascination with U.S. Postal or mail truck Aerostars. I've seen a couple in real life that were just probably on the very end of their days of service to the actual Postal Service. So I have seen some in the wild. Now I doubt any are actively being used by the Postal Service, although shockingly those Grumman LLVs still are. And so I would say if those things can still deliver the mail, then, you bet your last dollar an Aerostar could. But neither here nor there. I think they've gone to it's actually a Mercedes Metris, but they've sort of rebranded it with a Postal Eagle logo in the front. Some deal they did with them. So they're using Metrises or Tetrises, as my good buddy who has one calls it. Sad to see, really, because I think the Aerostar could still be a viable vehicle in that regard. I would imagine that Metrises get slightly better fuel economy. However, they are rear-wheel drive, so an all-wheel drive Aerostar, especially in the Northeast, would be a great Postal Service vehicle, as I'm sure this one was. Only 90,000 miles. My green Aerostar, which is getting some work done, it'll be back very soon, and we'll do an update for you. I think has like 110 on it now, and that drives absolutely great. So under 100,000 is basically, I would consider low mileage at this point in the Aerostar's career. So that's pretty amazing. It obviously was probably doing just a local route, and so it didn't, rack up a ton of miles. You would imagine that they were serviced pretty well. Being like sort of a government vehicle. Usually, the government doesn't shy about spending on certain things. Let's look at the interior real quick. We have a beautiful, sort of like one of the most iconic Aerostar interiors, the double gray with red piping, or this like maroon piping. I think this, and then of course your gold with maroon piping, is probably like the quintessential Aerostar interior, at least when we think about it as like a minivan, which is probably its most popular use case. And that's certainly what most people in the general public remember the Aerostar for, as being like a family minivan. However, this is a great example of just one of the many, many other uses that the Aerostar had. And this is the other thing about a postal van, which I think is so cool, because I always laud the Aerostar's ability to complete any task which it is assigned. So we've done ice cream trucks, we've done fire vehicles, campers, wheelchair accessibility vehicles. You know, the minivan, obviously a cargo van for the trades. There really is no low riders. We've done low riders, and we've, you know, like someday I would like to do, there is a convertible topless Aerostar out there. I would like to do that one day. And obviously any Aerostar that's a manual transmission, because it is rear wheel drive, I consider it like a sports car. I've seen overlanding vehicles, you know, monster truck Aerostars, you name it. We've seen an Aerostar tank like on tracks. Like it's really just is amazing how many different roles the Aerostar has fulfilled. Here's a great shot of the back, and it looks like obviously, you know, the government or the U.S. Postal Service probably didn't put this sticker on there. You can't fix stupid. You can, however, fix an Aerostar, because an Aerostar is anything but stupid. And then we have a Vans logo, so some sort of, you know, skater punk motif going on here. It is an XLT, which is cool, and I absolutely also love that it has the painted body matched bumpers. And I think in white in particular, it looks good on any color. Now this is interesting. Oh, it is a 97. Okay. You know, that's one thing that didn't even jump out at me, was that it is obviously a 97 by these taillights. You don't have the amber in here. You just have red and white. So that would be like another feather in this Aerostar's cap, is it is a 97. So there's something just unique about a 97 Aerostar. One, because of the taillights. I believe this also has a 5-speed transmission instead of a 4-speed, so you get that extra gear in there. I think it was the first minivan to have a 5-speed automatic transmission. And of course, it was the last year. So 96 and 97, you know, those are like the bonus years of the Aerostar, because it was set to expire after 1995. And because of, in Aerostar circles, probably famous lore, a famous story, the dealerships and factory were bombarded with letters from people saying, please don't stop manufacturing the Ford Aerostar. And to Ford's credit, they obliged. And it probably would have gone on longer if not for government regulation. It sounds like I'm like really railing on the government in this episode. But hey, the U.S. Postal Service, which is a government agency, bought all these Aerostars. So how much can we hate, right? The crash regulations came in, and it would have just been too cost prohibitive to re-engineer the Aerostar, which at that point was already 12 years into its run, or 10 years into its run, I guess, in 95, to comply with those things. And so they switched over to a front-wheel drive minivan, the Windstar. We all know the story by now, but there were those crossover years, and I think that's just such an endearing, you know, I can't think of many other cars that was like, you know, back or continued by popular demand, that people just loved and desired this vehicle so much. It fulfilled such a role, and indeed so many roles to so many people, that it was just this valued thing. And today, still, this is a unique vehicle. I mean, a van that, you know, is easy to park, easy to drive, rides a little bit more like a car, or like now what we would consider a crossover vehicle, yet has all-wheel drive, can be a utility vehicle, passenger vehicle. We do have the all-wheel drive Ford Transit, the big one now, but that's, you know, $70,000, $80,000, and this was still, the all-wheel drive was not that big of a price premium on these when they came out. They were comparable with a minivan of the day. So all-wheel drive minivans, obviously, and all-wheel drive cars in general are very popular now. So this was just so ahead of its time in all the different sort of roles that it fulfilled simultaneously. And they're still out there. People are still using them, still doing work in them. I was daily driving mine for a little bit this year when my Prius was in the shop. And so, you know, the praise continues. But I love the color matched bumpers, and particularly on a white Aerostar, as I was saying. I think just it gives you the sort of full unabridged edition, especially in an extended length, of the beautiful, beautiful shape of this vehicle. It really is timeless. I think it's aged so well. And it's so simple, and yet the more you look, you see these little nuances, these little grooves, these little contour lines that really show you that when this was designed, there was an eye on these little tiny details, and attention to detail obviously makes for good design. Plenty of dents and dings and little rust spots, also a reason why it really endears itself to me. Like the steel wheels, the black steel wheels also look great with the white body. A little bit of rust here, a little bit of rust there. But the fully intact bumpers, I mean, a little bit of paint fade, but your bumpers look like they are just completely fully intact. No like big gouges taken out. I want to see the front driver's side. I think it is. Yeah, it wraps all the way around there. This is an interesting thing. The only thing I could think of, it looks like just like a piece of sheet metal, like a rocker panel has been sort of cobbed on there, and you can see how your bottom, well, I guess that's truly your rocker panel, just sort of disappears into the nothingness below this piece of sheet metal here. Obviously, your contour line's not there. The only thing I could think of was maybe there was some modification to the postal vehicle that facilitated this, and even it has been patched after that. Maybe there was some difference that was made, but I'm assuming or guessing it's probably not that. It's probably just a, you know, a fix on some sort of deterioration of the vehicle using a janky methodology instead of finding the actual sheet metal panel that had those beautiful little crease lines that we were talking about when we talk about the design of this vehicle. So I want to know, like, where does the rocker panel go? Does it just disappear, or is it just crinkled? I would like to see this in person and get under there and just see what's going on there, because obviously if you run into frame stuff, that gets a little bit pricey. And I've talked about this before, but white Aerostars look good because they have all this black in them. So it really is like the ebony and ivory, you know, the piano keys. You have your black cowl, your windshields, your rubber seals, your mirrors, your door handles, your rear door slider, your tires and wheels, obviously, your badging, and even some elements of the grille, while mostly chrome, have like sort of a dark gray. I would say you could even paint this grille insert black, and that would probably really just even add to the effect. Your little mini triangular window, another great piece of Aerostar design. It does look like your radio antenna is missing, so that's something. And the reason that I first thought this was a postal vehicle, A, was because the bumpers were painted white, which I do think they did on all postal vehicles. And also you can see you have this metal cage in there, and it's a unique cage. It's not just a bulkhead that blocks off the front seats. It's actually like a full metal cage, which I suppose was a security measure or just a safety measure for all the mail and boxes, especially if you're hucking things in the back there. You know, it protects your glass from being smashed, and obviously you can't smash it from the outside to steal people's mail, which I believe is a felony. What's not a felony is buying and owning this beautiful, beautiful 1997 Ford Aerostar. So extended, all-wheel drive. I love the color. I love the color-matched bumpers. I love its provenance and its history. The fact that it was a postal vehicle, I think, is really, really cool. It looks like there may be a reverse camera in there, or maybe that bump was always there when they installed that third brake light up there. I don't know. If you know in the comments, let me know if that's sort of a separate deal or if that was always on there. You know, you have your dings and dents in it, but like I was sort of alluding to, all those little dings and dents and imperfections just endear this vehicle to me. It means it was actually used. It was used as intended, and it's got, you know, all the mechanicals. Again, we don't get a lot of detail onto the service history of this vehicle, but only 91,000 miles, 91 and a half, means that it's probably still in decent fettle, as the British like to say. And all the little dings and bumps, just, I mean, I would use this as a work vehicle. You know, I'd make this my ladder vehicle, perhaps my winter beater if I got it undercoated really good and I felt confident that I wasn't going to completely ruin the frame. It'd be a perfect winter beater, all-wheel drive. In the wintertime, you could keep your nice car off the road in the winter. You're going to get a little, you know, not the greatest mileage. This is obviously probably the 4.0. It has to be if it's all-wheel drive. So you're not even getting 18 miles a gallon probably. But, you know, you're not driving as much in the winter generally. You could always take your other car if you needed to. And then in the summer times, I'm just speaking for me as the owner of a small cleaning of painting business, it would just be perfect. Get a nice black, just your, you know, cheapo model black roof rack for it. That would really complete the look. And you can, I mean, in my 93, you know, there's so much space in there, and that's a shorty. So in the extended version, you even have that much more space. You could probably outfit it with some shelving. And then if you want it on the weekends, you just pop out the shelving, throw a queen size mattress in there, and you're good to go camping. So that would be another sort of benefit to this vehicle. I'm in a pretty committed stage of trying to pay off debt right now, and I will be releasing more videos on that at some point. I mean, my janky life is basically my, you know, story of trying to de-hoard my life And, you know, the hoarding component and the debt component kind of go hand in hand. They're all wrapped up in whatever particular pathology I've developed as an adult. We're working on that, you know, and we're trying to be open and honest and forthcoming about that. So, you know, gone are the days when I managed to scrape together a couple $1,000s and I can go on a wild goose chase to get these cars. I've done that for most of my, you know, 20s and 30s. I've accumulated a pretty good fleet, which I'm very happy with. But I think something's really got to go before something else comes in. So perhaps I will message this seller and just ask if they're, you know, perhaps into a trade for something other than an Aerostar, obviously, because I'm not ready to give up any of my Aerostars. Or, as always, we'll put the line out there. If you are a wealthy benefactor and want to purchase this vehicle and give me, you know, very favorable loan terms, then, you know, we can chat. And I'll paint you something, you know, like I'll work for commission, and you know, I'll paint you a picture of an Aerostar if you'd like, in addition to, you know, repaying partial or full payment on the vehicle, depending on, you know, we could work something out. So let me know if you're out there. But I mean, I've been cycling through the pictures real fast. And we'll go to the interior one more time. I mean, pretty clean overall too. You have these nice, like, really rubber floor mats, like hard rubber floor mats. You know, you got your stains by your dog door and all that. Nothing's perfect about it. But I will say the seats look pretty darn good. I mean, especially for a vehicle that was used as a work vehicle. Pretty unstained, pretty nice condition. I don't see a lot of rips or tears in there. So pretty, actually, very nice interior. And then you do have this bulkhead here, which is nice. I'm wondering what they did with the headliner from the factory. It looks like they might have just ripped it out, you know, because the headliner does kind of come in two sections on these Aerostars, which is smart if you think about it, because you can just rip half of it out and keep your sort of driver area headliner. Nice bulkhead back there. It's already well set up to be a work vehicle. I think that's excellent. And boy, just drink it in. I mean, there's something about the aesthetic of this one in particular. Just that all-wheel drive badge. It just sits really right on those steel wheels, and they kind of looks like kind of chonky tires on there. I'm sure they're very standard. Now, this would look probably pretty incredible with a set of white wall tires and just keep the black steel wheels on there. A little set of white wall tires to just add that final little level of contrast in there. That's what I would probably do, because at some point it'll probably need new tires. But you could slap some real nice sort of, you know, mudden tires or just winter tires on here too. And I've heard these things are quite beastly in the winter, the all-wheel drive system. I've never had the pleasure myself. I could just go on forever about this vehicle. I'm so smitten by it. And I think the price is right too. Again, like under 100,000 mile vehicle, in working, running condition. I'm sure it'll need service along the way, but hey, for under $2,000, I mean, for any vehicle, let alone one with the capability, the versatility, the all-wheel drive, the space, it's still just an insane value in today's market. If you just look at it objectively, take away all the pomp and circumstance of the Aerostardom of this vehicle, and obviously not everybody is so obsessed or infatuated with these vehicles like I am, but just take it at face value. It's a very, very good deal for a used automobile. And I think there's something about vans that just, you know, people are, but you know, when you see this thing, it's not a small vehicle, especially the extended, but they're much narrower than modern cars. It's not that long. You have a nice, you're sitting up high. People like to sit up high. It's not like you're sitting low in like an old Toyota Corolla from the time that's like really tiny. So you're sitting up high. You have an airbag. It's sort of the perfect little modality. It'd be a great first car for someone. If you're going off to college, you can haul around all your crap in it. You know, your gas mileage isn't going to be great, but you know, you kind of live with that because of all the other benefits that you get. It's just perfect first car or perfect second car. I always tell people, get a second car. Get a little, you know, for $2,000, you never have to rent a car. If you get in a jam, most dealerships don't provide service vehicles anymore. I ran into that with my last experience. So if going to Home Depot to buy a ton of lumber or something like that, you know, you got a vehicle to do it. If you're moving, if you got to help a friend move, if you find something at a at an antique store or a craft fair just on the side of the road and you want to pick it up but you can't move it, if you're buying furniture off marketplace or whatever, it really does come in handy in a lot of different circumstances. And you could register it historic, so you're going to pay very cheap. Your insurance is going to be very cheap. So many practical advantages. And that the advantages of having an Aerostar are sort of a microstar, that's a good word, a microcosm of what the Aerostar is as a entity itself. So that's kind of a cool little, intermingled little self-reinforcing duality there. So there you have it. I mean, sometimes you just run out of words, and I'm usually not one to run out of words, but at a certain point, you just have to step back and just look at the breathtaking nature of this vehicle, and it is just perfect. I mean, it chef's kiss. This is the one, man. I really wish this was going to be my next Aerostar. And you never know. I have a feeling this will not stay online very long. I have a feeling this will be sold very, very quickly. Usually when there's something that I'm really lusting after, I'm not the only one. And there was a couple other vehicles, not Aerostar related, but I got a little tempted. I won't get into that. But they tend to go very quickly when they're priced right and when they are just have that je ne sais quoi, they're just oh yeah, you can read this as a very, very good deal, very desirable vehicle. All-wheel drives have a huge premium on it. I mean, I could probably flip this if I really wanted to, just get it paint corrected and slap a couple rear bench seats in there, because a lot of all-wheel drive Aerostars now go for a lot of money. So I mean, relatively speaking, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. So this is a pretty screaming deal, if I do say so myself. If you do happen to buy this vehicle, and we've been so fortunate here and I've talked to some people in the comments that have purchased some of these vehicles that we featured here on Year of the Aerostar. Not tooting my own horn. I think they probably found them in other circumstances, but then they've sort of bought them and then found them later through this program here. So that's a nice little sort of community thing. So I hope we get to keep track of this one. Whoever does buy it, I hope they stumble upon this video, and maybe I'll get a chance to at least go drive it someday or something like that. Or maybe when they're ready to pass it on, I'll be in a better position to purchase this vehicle. So it never hurts to document the process. And then here we are. We have a little adding a little to the provenance of this vehicle. Again, that back view right there, just really, really stunning vehicle. Last thing I'll say here, I think the only place that the Aerostar looks like another vehicle, and this goes into the history of the Aerostar because Lee Iacocca, who is known as the father of the minivan, worked at Ford for a long, long time and was there in the beginning stages of the Aerostar development, or was the Ford Carousel in the 70s. It would later become the Aerostar. But he left, went to Chrysler famously with the K cars and, rehashing Chrysler's whole thing there. And the Caravan came out, and the Voyager, Town and Country, that trifecta. And it was front-wheel drive with a 4-cylinder. They did offer manual transmission in that, but the front-wheel drive was the biggest distinction. It was much more car-like than the Aerostar, which was a bit more truck-like. But I will say, when you squint, you can see the first-gen Caravan in here. They do kind of resemble each other. The front doesn't really at all to me, but the rear does sort of resemble a Caravan a little bit. And maybe that's because the bumper is color matched here, or maybe because the amber isn't in the taillights. I don't know, but it in the rear sort of license plate bezel cover there, it does sort of resemble it a little bit. So I was just noticing that now. Not a good or a bad thing, just an observation. But I will say it's the only time I've seen an Aerostar and even had to think for a moment about what it was that I was looking at. So that's just a little interesting bit of Beef Janky's mind just wandering off there in the automotive realm. But I got to leave it on this picture. This has got to be the thumbnail. It's too bad. I will say, any prospective sellers out there, do me, but more importantly, do yourself a favor. Just leave a foot or two on either side of the vehicle when you're taking the picture, because we want to gush over this vehicle, and when it's just barely cropped like that, it's like a tease, you know, you really want to get that whole thing in there. So wherever picture you're taking, this one's not bad. Just step back 2 or 3 feet. We'll be able to zoom in and get the detail just fine. That's okay. Again, here, you know, the framing of the photo. I want to see that whole thing in there. This is a good one. And also, if I may add, try to take one, like this is a great, you know, direct back shot. Try to take one head-on shot of the vehicle too. We want to see that smiling face looking at us. You know, even Doug DeMuro's talked about this. Good pictures really do help in selling a vehicle. Now, this vehicle sells itself. I'm sure it won't be a problem. And it's more just me nitpicking because when I create the thumbnails for these videos, I hate when they're cropped out like that. Now, obviously, sometimes I do the mirror imaging, but if I do a mirror image on this, you're not going to be able to get to see a lot of the vehicle, and that's a shame to me. For sale by owner sign, I like that in there. Okay, we're getting distracted. We'll end it there. I'm hoping I can, you know, I hate to say pump out because it sounds like I'm not giving my all when I do these, which of course I am, but I want to really get back on the road and do some more Year of the Aerostars and really start to get that you know, get up to like episode 150 and eventually 200 and keep marching on from there. So, and there's so many good ones for sale, even in my neck of the woods right now, that I'm really hoping I can document them in real time and that we can sort of get back to a steady rhythm on this program here. So there you have it. Just breathtaking, gorgeous, handsome, dashing.
The handsome, dashing Ford Aerostar.
1997 Ford Aerostar cargo. And actually it's not a cargo. Well, it is kind of a cargo. I denote cargo as having the barn doors. So by that definition, it's not a cargo. However, it's a Postal Service van and it has a bulkhead and mesh netting. So who am I to say it's not a cargo? Anyhow, we will have another episode of Year of the Aerostar coming very soon for you here on Janky AF. Thank you so much for watching, commenting. I have to respond to your comments. I do apologize for that because sometimes the context has sort of moved on if it's a time-sensitive question, but I'll try to get to you nonetheless and just check in on those comments. I really, really appreciate all the engagement, and it's so lovely to experience the joy of the Ford Aerostar with other folks out there, even if it's just through some digital communication. Okay, so we will have another program coming for you very soon here on Janky AF. And until then, Janky do Thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.